It's just so special for such our club, mate, our club.
Lastly, after 57 years of pain, it's coming home.
Hey there, TJ here, and welcome to Yeah The Dees, where I'm going through round 10 against Port Adelaide in Adelaide on Friday the 19th of May 2023, and it was a very frustrating and disappointing game to watch where we ended up just short by 4 points. Definitely a deserving win to Port Adelaide. They controlled the game for 3 quarters, and their ability to play like Melbourne basically is what happened. They played a game very similar to us. It was kind of like playing a bizarro version of ourselves. Port's ability to control the positioning on the field and just do a bit better in the conditions, probably the difference. But we'll get into a bit more detail when we crack into the game. So let's just start off with my thoughts on the team selection. So I was pretty damn happy to see Christian Salem come back in. He's an absolute quality player. I was a little bit surprised to see Tom McDonald, just based on the last time we played Port Adelaide, with Jake Melksham doing quite well against Yeahthedees and with it being forecast to rain. But that was the choices that were made there. With Christian Salem coming in, it was going to be interesting to see what we were going to do with our back line, and that means that Angus Brayshaw got brought into the middle, which I was pretty happy to see. So let's get cracking into this game. So it's a bit of an arm wrestle early already, but we kick off with Gus Brayshaw in the middle, and he's forgotten to put his helmet on, which is always alarming for me. I don't know why. Just whenever I see him without his helmet on, it just feels weird. Like, it's weird to see him with his hair out on a footy field nowadays because I'm just so used to it. But yeah, we got a free kick in the middle, but a bad inside 50. Port were a bit slow to get through us at the start and end up kicking it out on the full. But we end up going forward through that, and Cade Chandler took a mark, got a 50-metre penalty, and kicked the first goal of the game. They were able to respond shortly after with Sam Powell-Pepper as Christian Petrarca got caught holding the ball in the middle of the grounds, and they were able to go forward, and we really got punished because we didn't kill the ball over the line, and Sam Powell-Pepper just kicked it over his head. And it's just like, that's really not good enough. We really should have been able to kill that ball and make that a 1-point score instead of a 6-point score. I don't know why the team doesn't just try to punch it over and they try to keep it in and get the ball out. We try to play this perfect football all the time, and it smacks us in the face rather than just taking the easy option, allowing us a bit of time and space and breathing room to reset, and they do it all the time in the back line. I know we do this great play down the wing. We have this way of players coming around and getting 3 or 4 handballs out to get out. But like every 5th or 6th time that we try to do that, it really fucks up for us and ends up costing us a goal. And in a match that ends up being a 4-point margin, little things like this really, really matter. And yeah, it was just not good enough. Brayshaw got his helmet back on by the next centre bounce contest. Tom McDonald sockers through a point, which was just him sort of having a bit of a swing at it. Cozzy Specky attempt, which gives a free kick away when Spargo marked it just right in front of him. I'm really, really tired of these stupid free kicks being given away when Cozzy's just nowhere near taking a spectacular mark. I know he wants one so badly, but it's like he gave up a shot on goal here in the first quarter, which could have really helped us control the game and put some scoreboard pressure on. So it's the little mistakes like this that get exacerbated in games like this, and it's just really, really annoying. Ed Langdon kicks a behind, and then Port go coast to coast, but they're not able to score. We have a couple of inside 50s that are just a bit poor. One goes just straight over Clayton Oliver's head. Francis Evans got split open in a contest. It's a really bad holding the ball call against Christian Petrarca as the rain starts to bucket down. Like, I understand they didn't have many people ahead of him, but you can't just spin, turn, pivot and not expect to get tackled and lose the ball. There was another Ed Langdon holding the ball in this quarter as well. We're just like, was after slipping over, which I thought was a bit harsh. We do all this hard work down the wing only for Chandler to kick it out on the full, so that was really, really disappointing. And then Jeremy Finlayson can go and get a goal. So then Port have 2 on the board, where we really, really should have had 3 or 4 here by this stage already. So we've already kicked ourselves out of it, and we should have killed that Sam Powell-Pepper one in the first quarter. And you could just see soft free against Jack Viney, which gives Jason Horn-Francis a shot on goal, and he kicks it. And it's like, those are the sort of free kicks that Cozzy Pickett never gets anymore. And it's just so frustrating when it happens to the other team. And they got so many goals from free kicks in this game. A lot of them were our fault, especially those ones against JVR where he was just going too hard and hitting people a bit high and just giving away stupid free kicks. But like, there's at least 2 goals in this quarter that Port got that we should have been a lot better at and them not getting, and we should have kicked 2 or 3 instead. But they end up going in with the momentum being 12 points up at quarter time. We didn't get reward for effort when we had control of the ball in our forward half. And then as soon as the rain came down, we just couldn't stick our marks. The ball just sort of bounced their way a little bit. I wasn't too worried at this point because I thought we might be able to turn it around, but the weather worried me more than anything. I was just disappointed that the outcomes of the hard work that we didn't get rewarded, and that sort of affects the way players keep running. Like, it's just, it's energy, it's emotion, it's reward for effort, it's feeling satisfied, it's going and high-fiving your teammates or dropping your head. That's the difference between kicking for goal. But as we get cracking into the second quarter, we just really start getting beaten in the contest and clearances, and especially around stoppage. We're just rush and dump kicking it and turning the ball over. They got the first goal very early on, and Clayton Oliver's getting pinned for throws in this game, and it's the third one early in this second quarter. So they've definitely had a chat about these little flick hand passes, which is very, very cruel because so many other sides do them as well. So I'm not sure why Oliver was getting targeted there. Dan Houston ends up kicking a goal after some of our dump kicks and stuff. Port Adelaide's supporters are getting up and about now that they've kicked these first 2 early on in the quarter. We get a lot of Stephen May intercepting in this sort of period. He does some really great work defensively. We do this great bit of work where we go coast to coast because we start switching the ball, and that was really when we started looking good, was when we started to switch the ball and coming out of defence on the other side. After a May intercept, we switched the ball to Rivers and then got it to Chandler and Fritsch. But after some wrestling, the ball gets rushed over, which was a bit disappointing. Another great effort to get the ball down there and get some free movement. It happened a couple of times against Port, which was really, really difficult to do. There was another great tackle by Jake Lever, which basically saved a shot on goal from Dan Houston. He's able to get the ball and kick that goal anyway. Max Gawn gets a free kick for Sam Powell-Pepper blocking him going off the ground. I guess it counts as like a block off the ball because there's no ball being played. Sam Powell-Pepper got warned twice, so I was like, fair enough, I guess, with that free kick. There's a free kick for taking out Lever's legs, which gives our 17th entry into 50 without a score, and Van Rooyen kicks it behind. The contest in this game was fairly entertaining, even though we were a step behind, especially from their pace. Like Butters, Rosie, and Horn Francis are all really fast midfielders, and we just felt that maybe a step off the pace a little bit. I'm not sure if Christian Petrarca's ankle from the week before was affecting him, but he didn't play a lot of midfield time. We saw Brayshaw in there a lot more. We rebound back through the middle, and Bailey Fritsch is able to mark and goal whilst getting heaps of boos because he got Wines high just a bit earlier. Stephen made a big tackle on JHF. Langdon tries to kick it out of their area, but he's given an insufficient intent free kick where Zach Butters just kicks it out on the full. There was another stupid free kick that Oliver gave away for front-on contact to Ollie Wines, and then he kicks it behind. So at this stage in the quarter, it's 10-0 in clearance to Port, mainly around the stoppages and things like that. Getting absolutely belted in this quarter. Some grub just lands on Max Gawn and he doesn't get a free kick. He just sits in his back. Like, he was absolutely bashed this first half, Max Gawn, and it was really disappointing. I heard David King talk during the week that he was checked or bumped 14 times in the first half. And that was Port Adelaide stopping him from getting to contests. Like, our game is really based around getting our big man to contests and taking big contested marks and overhead marks that other players can't really get to. But when it rains and when Max is targeted and can't get to those spots, we're stuffed. Like, it's just, what are you going to do? Our game plan was completely gone, and it seems like we don't have a wet weather plan. Like, we didn't adjust well when it was torrential rain. It was some of the worst conditions I've seen in a very, very long time. And it was just so shocking to see that none of the players really got around and helped Max. And apparently they talked about it at half time, and maybe it helped spur some of this third quarter action that we got into. But really, that effort and that support around Max just wasn't really good enough from the players. And I think this is a bit of a wake-up call for them. But soon after that, the ruckman get tangled up on the wing and it's play on. Angus Brayshaw collects and clears the ball right into Bailey Fritsch's hands, who can bring it back to 13 points, surprisingly. Even after having the first 26 minutes of this quarter really dominated by Port, it was only a 13-point margin, and it was really massive that we got those 2 goals in a row through Bailey Fritsch, with how much Port was controlling the ball and living in their first half for almost the whole quarter, and for a lot of that first quarter as well. Port go forward after a decent contest in the middle, and Darcy Byrne-Jones hits the post. So we kick 2-3-15 to Port's 2-5-17, Port by 14 points. Pretty lucky to keep that quarter pretty close and within 2 points for it, with how much that Port dominated. I was pretty happy to only be 14 points down going in at halftime. I definitely thought, we could give it a good shake. And then, unfortunately, they were able to get the first goal, which sucked a little bit. But then we just went on this really, really sick run as the rain really started to pour again. There was a holding to Oliver in the middle, and T-Mac pushes him out of the way and takes a chest mark, is able to kick a goal. So that we were able to peg that first one back right away and really sort of, we just sort of started to get some momentum. So always play with a person less at the contest, which it seems to exacerbate against teams that have a few speedy players. So this is why Zach Butters was able to really run free and have 41 disposals and just go nuts, because we always had our spare player behind the ball to intercept, but they were just smashing us in these stoppages and these contests. We started winning the contests in that third. We started getting our hands on the ball first. And that's where we were able to start getting a bit more of a run after this Zach Butters goal here. So at this stage, 10 minutes into the third, Zach Butters had already had 29 disposals, and the next best for the game was 18, and Oliver was one of them. So they got another opportunity shortly after that and missed, and then Christian Petrarca kicked a goal. And when we go on maybe one of the best 10-minute runs I've ever seen, it was 6 goals in a row and just really, really, really freaking enjoyable to watch. I was like, yes, we're firing into this fourth quarter and we're looking great. Christian Petrarca kicked a goal. Jacob Van Rooyen takes a nice mark in the pocket from Cade Chandler and goals. Petrarca leaks forward after trying to smother, and the ball spills free to Oliver, but unfortunately he misses to the right. Shortly after that, Cozzy's able to goal. Got a free to Oliver. We're able to get it to Charlie Spargo and kicked a goal. So there's 6 minutes to go in this quarter. Port were pretty good in the first little part, but 8 of 8 Port Adelaide players hadn't touched the ball in that quarter. And we were really just able to dominate that second part of play and just getting our hands to the ball and getting our connection with Gawn and Grundy in the midfield, because that wasn't working in the other quarters. We weren't getting the connection. We were getting all the hit outs, but they were getting sharked and getting taken out, and the connection just wasn't there. And then, believe it or not, the rain gets heavier and heavier. Oliver gets slammed in the back, and we get a downfield free. Oliver runs up the ground, gets a hand pass from T-Mac, but unfortunately it's a turnover. But we turn it back over and get it back down the ground. And I think Lockie Hunter kicks the most amazing goal, like snap from the pocket, I've seen in the heaviest rain I've seen on TV. And it was just 5 in a row. We've turned it around. We've gone from being 14 points down to 11 points up. Get a free to Grundy in the forward line. Could have almost been a 50-metre penalty for dissent with the way that the guy was carrying on. But Grundy kicks our 6th in a row and gives the crowd a big shush, which, really gave me the confidence to think that we were on our way. Like, we're rolling. The team's feeling it. They're shushing the crowd. They're getting it on. And then we just really fuck up these last 4 minutes and let Zach Butters kick a goal right on the siren and just suck all that momentum away that we had, reducing the margin from 17 points to 11. And that's just like, it's these little mistakes that we need to get out of our game. We shouldn't be doing anything like that. I should mention that before this, there was the clash between Hunter and Rosie, which puts him on report. Lockie Hunter just stopped and stayed still, and Rosie led with his head and ran into him. It is absolutely ridiculous that he was on report and this is going for a week. I get that it's a free kick in the game. That's fine. But Rosie initiates contact there, and that's where that should end. I'm really glad that we're contesting it, and hopefully we get the results for that. So yeah, Butters gets a free kick for holding as Rivers sort of gives it away, but it's probably there, and he kicks after the siren and kicks the goal. So we kick 7-2-44 to Port's 3-1-19, lead by 11 points. And then just go into this last quarter where, unfortunately, a JVR retaliation gives Finlayson a really easy goal in this quarter, and then it's just they have 3 misses in a row. They have all the momentum this quarter based off getting that early goal and just getting that energy back into them. Tom McDonald gets absolutely mauled with a high tackle on the wing here, and it's done holding the ball. Like, Tom Jonas got suspended for this action for getting him high in a dangerous tackle, and we got done holding the ball, and it just shows how fucking bad the umpires were this game. Like, they were terrible both ways, but they were especially terrible to Melbourne. And like, Port were the better side on the day 100%, but bad kicking's bad footy, and they almost kicked themselves out of it. There are about 10 decisions or non-decisions throughout this game that were absolutely horrific towards us and gave Port all the momentum. So where it really comes down to it, I'm not that hard on the team because the effort was there all the time. Just the execution was poor, some decision-making was poor, and some free kicks that they gave away that were definitely there were very, very poor. JVR had his worst game for his career so far, and hopefully this will stay the worst game for his career because he's usually not bad. But he gave away 2 goals in this last quarter. It was giving them the ball, giving them control, and giving them shots on goal in a tight game. And it just shouldn't happen. Tom McDonald, giving us some hope with 18 minutes to go, putting us back in front. Also, the Jake Lever 50. Like, the guy was running in front of him. Why wasn't it a double 50? Like, it happens all the time. And I get the players are playing around with it, but the guy should have moved, and maybe Jake Lever should have played it up a bit more, but that should have been an extra 50-metre penalty. That's the rules. And, just terrible, terrible umpiring throughout this game. We kicked 1-3-9 to Port's 3-6-24 in that last quarter. So Port win their 4th game under 7 points in their 7-game streak. And that's the game. Not at one stage did I look at one player and be like, oh, he's not trying to tackle, or he's not trying to put defense on, or he's not trying to hit a target. Like, skill execution, especially in that sort of weather, I can forgive. I think maybe a bit of positioning could have been a bit better. Maybe changing some matchups. Maybe tagging Bloody Butters at some point. Really just sitting someone on him. And maybe that's where we missed not having a Tom Sparrow or a James Harms in the side. But we also lost every quarter in pressure. Like, it was close. So quarter 1, we were 182 to 203. Quarter 2, 200 to 203. Quarter 3 was 189 to 198. And quarter 4 was 205 to 219. So we averaged 194 to 205. It's in the ballpark. 200's elite. We're just below. They're just over. And a lot of the efforts were there, but we weren't really sticking those tackles and really holding the ball up and, being able to do what we can do on a dry deck. But yeah, let's just get into the team stats. So Port Adelaide had a few more kicks than us, really. Fairly even in handballs, a lot more inside 50s, and that comes from them just dominating the play in the forward half. Disposal efficiency, down from both of our averages, but that's expected in a torrentially wet game. But obviously they had a lot more inside 50s than us. They had more free kicks. Surprise, surprise. Hit-outs, 45 to 23. See, we smashed them in hit-outs, but clearances, they beat us by 10, but not in the centre. So it's around the stoppages. It's around the ground. And that was a huge issue because they kept getting the run out and then able to holding it in that half of the ground. We won in contested possessions. They had more uncontested. Turnovers around the same, but a lot higher than both teams' normal averages, possibly because of the wet. We basically couldn't stick a mark for half the game either, so that was a really bad point for us. Look, tackles fairly even for the game, but tackles inside 50, that's the big difference. 18 to 6. You're creating those turnovers and opportunities for you inside your forward 50, and that's where Port Adelaide won the game, was just the weight of numbers with their opportunities 50 because they stuffed up a lot of them. Stephen May, the best player on the ground in terms of metres gained, was 696. He had a really, really good game. Lots of intercept marks. Lots of clean kicks down the wing that we would try to get to ground and turn over, just unfortunately. Port Adelaide were a little bit better in the ground ball than us, I think. Clayton Oliver topping the disposal chart as usual with 30, which is a pretty decent effort, especially if he's actually torn his hamstring or strained it. They're being very vague about the scans and what's come out and what exactly the damage is because he was still training yesterday. And usually you don't do that, so maybe it's a bit more of a Stephen May kind of hamstring, but what's happening there? Lockie Hunter, our next best possession getter with 24. It's probably a bit cruel to do disposal efficiency in such a wet game, but Jake Lever 100%, Stephen May 87, Michael Hibbert 80, another top game from him. Intercept marks were only topped up as 2, but Trent Rivers with 9 intercept possessions, Jake Lever and Michael Hibbert with 7 each. Clayton Olive with 9 tackles, Judd McVeigh, who seemed like he had a quiet game, but he was around 6 tackles. Angus had 6 as well. Stephen May and Jake Lever spending the whole time on the ground, basically with Michael Hibbert as well. So that's nuts for those 3 people to all be on the ground for that pretty much that entire time in the wet. Yeah, we basically played 2 of our worst quarters for the year here. This second and fourth quarter, it's the worst I've seen us play. Really disappointing, but that's footy. So yeah, we'll just I guess we'll just get into the votes. The coaches' votes very much dominated by Port Adelaide players, which is no surprise. They were definitely the better players on the day, but that means that the coaches' votes got divided up like this. So I gave 1 vote to Trent Rivers, thought he was quite fantastic and showed as much dash as he could. Gave 2 votes to Bailey Fritsch for being basically the only player that could take a mark and kick a goal for a while for us. Gave 3 votes to Christian Petrarca. I didn't really feel like any of the midfielders kind of deserved votes based on how much they got smashed in the middle, but Christian Petrarca made a difference every time he was in the middle and ended up with our most score involvements. Gave 4 votes to Michael Hibbert, who is just one of the best defenders I think I've ever seen for someone his height and size. He's absolutely phenomenal, and we would have lost by a lot more if he wasn't playing. Gave 5 votes to Lockie Hunter, thought he was great down the wing, and that goal he kicked was just absolutely phenomenal, but he was probably one of our better ball movers for the day, and we especially would have lost by a lot more if Stephen May wasn't playing, who had a brilliant game in defence whilst under absolutely immense pressure, probably the most amount of pressure we've seen. And now here's my leaderboard. On the VFL, the Casey Demons took on North Melbourne down at Casey Fields on the Saturday afternoon and came out with the win by 15 points. A bit of an even game throughout this sort of, quarter and a half, and then we just really broke away with quite a few goals in a row here. Oliver Seston kicking an absolute ripper. Joel Smith kicking 3 goals for the game and took an absolute screamer of a mark as well, and then just kind of held the momentum a little bit through here. Just you kick a goal, we kick a goal. And then they had a little bit of a spurt here where they kicked a couple of goals in a row, North Melbourne, but we were able to kick 2 more here with Bailey Laurie and Ben Brown. Then they kicked another 2, and then Josh Shackey kicked 1 towards the end. Taron Thomas on the field for the North Melbourne seconds, playing there, which I thought was interesting. I didn't realise he was playing any sort of football at the moment. James Jordan went and had a bit more of a game as well after playing a quarter and a bit. In the wet, he gathered 27 disposals and definitely looked a step above everybody. Adam Tomlinson just marking everything, 10 marks, 24 disposals, 18 kicks, did a great job in defensive 50. Bailey Laurie looked really nice. Tajwa Woden also looking very good. They had 23 and 22 disposals each. Bailey Laurie with 2 goals and Tajwa Woden 1-1. So both had 2 shots on goal each. Harmsy did all right. Daniel Turner did all right. Jake Melksham bobbed up with 3 goals. Ben Brown presented when he was on the field and kicked 2. So, hopefully he's getting back towards some match fitness. So for my final thoughts, unfortunately, we do find ourselves in 4th instead of 2nd with that loss to Port Adelaide, and that finds them jumping a game ahead of us. So we're sitting here at 7-3, and I see a lot of people are worried about sort of where we are and where we're sitting, and I had a bit of a look through sort of the history of the last 20 years of football, and to get top 8, you're basically losing anywhere between 2 to 8 games a year. I don't really worry until we lose 6 or 7, and if we go through our upcoming games, where are we going to lose these 3 to 4 games? Like, I don't really see us losing more than that. I think we should beat Fremantle on Saturday. I get that they've beaten Sydney and they've beaten Geelong, but Geelong are up and down based on their injuries. Sydney have had horrific injuries post round 3. Like, we got them when they were really good and we were able to beat them. So I know Freo beat us last year, but I don't think that has too much to do with it. It should be a really interesting game. I'm really looking forward to coming to it. Carlton, they're just broken at the moment. Will they get it together the week they play us? Probably, but I still don't see us losing to them. Collingwood, that'll be a tough game. That could be a loss. Geelong, will they be healed by then? Will they have players back? Will Danger be playing? Not sure. So that's probably a 50-50 game at GMHBA. We're definitely going to beat the Giants. St Kilda's defence isn't good enough in my opinion, and we've had the wood over them for a little bit, so I think we should basically beat them again. Brisbane playing us in Melbourne. Yeah, look, they're a great side, but generally we do better than them in Melbourne. It should be a tough game, so that's maybe 50-50. So now we've got, 2, 3, maybe 50-50 games at the moment coming into here. Adelaide, we should win. Richmond don't have a coach anymore now, so we should win. North Melbourne, we should win. Carlton, I think it's basically the same thing that I said before. You don't know what's going to happen with them. But by that stage, it's the third last round of the year, and they're probably not going to be playing finals, so are they even going to show up? Hawthorn, that will be, another 50, 100-point win. And then this game will be interesting in the last round because it really depends where Sydney's at. Like Sydney, it's possibly Buddy Franklin's last game here at the SCG for the last round. So I was really, really annoyed when we got slotted this game in the fixture as the last round. I can only really see possibly maybe 4 games that we'll lose for the rest of the year, which will, have us on 7 losses. And if you've only got 7 losses, you're probably top 4. So I think we'll be okay. We just need to get some connection a bit better together. It'll be really interesting to see our midfield mix if Clayton Oliver does miss 2 to 4 weeks, because we'll see a mix of Petrarca, Viney and Brayshaw, and then you'll see Cozzy come into that as well, Trent Rivers come into that, Tom Sparrow, James Jordan. Find out what we're like without Clayton there. Like, he's only missed 1 game in the last 6 years. I don't know how our chemistry will be there. It'll be interesting. Like, will Christian Petrarca take over and be the dominant player? And then Bailey Fritsch also went for scans yesterday as well, so we'll see what the results are of that. But yeah, thanks for watching Yeah The Dees. Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll catch you next week.
And it's just so special for our club, mate, our club.
Lastly, after 57 years of pain, it's coming home.